Today has been an absolutely crazy day for crypto. Seriously, the amount of breaking news that's been coming out today is wild. Crypto lender Genesis is filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. We got the US Justice Department going after Bitslotto. Never heard about it before, but apparently the company and its founder face enforcement actions from US authorities. Anyway, on a completely different side note, the EU has also delayed the final vote on the MiCA crypto bill, again due to some translation issues. Apparently, the SEC has violated some privacy law while making an investigation into the dubious crypto firm Green. And also, DCG, the parent company of Genesis, is in so much trouble that apparently they're also halting their quarterly dividend payments. All in all, today was a really bad day among the board. The major indices have all gone down, and obviously Bitcoin and most cryptos have also fallen a little bit. Taking a look at the chart, one can say that we indeed are still being resisted by the previous tops that we had at the start of November at roughly 21.350 on the Bitcoin price. Again, guys, the moment that we breach, I'm opening up some crazy Bitcoin long positions over on Bybit. If you've not checked out Bybit, there'll be a link for that down below. It's the exchange I personally use. Anyway, if we do end up breaking down, I am expecting a bit of a downfall, potentially towards 19,000, or if things push comes to shove all the way down towards 16.4, but we'll talk about that a little bit later as we see some more movement. Right now, we're just attempting to breach this level. We've attempted it yet again today, and so we're waiting for some more price action. Having said that, let's talk about Genesis. The long story short is DCG is in a lot of trouble from all around. Genesis stopped customer withdrawals like months ago or so, and I think everybody was already expecting Genesis to file for bankruptcy. It's only now become official that they are going to file for it. Apparently, DCG has been in talks with many other parties to get Genesis out of this pit, but it didn't really happen. We also know they've been in a lot of disputes with Bitfavo, here also with Gemini, as Gemini offered a lending product called Earn in partnership with Genesis, and now Genesis apparently owes them $900 million. Last week, the US SEC came after Gemini and partially Genesis as well for this Earn program, and so I guess they couldn't hold it down anymore and they had to go for bankruptcy. Now, you might be looking at this and thinking, what's behind that little login wall of yours? We can just see it here without logging in. Bitslotto and its founder face enforcement actions from US authorities. Just understand, this was such a big deal, all right? The entire crypto space, especially over on Twitter, was saying, tomorrow something's crazy going to happen. Today something crazy is going to happen. And I was really sitting behind my desk thinking, what's it going to be? What are they going to talk about? What's it going to be? Everybody was just excited. And then all of a sudden showed up a name that I've never heard of before, which is a whole nothing burger. Pretty interesting. Now, the Department of Justice, Treasury Department, and French law enforcement seized many of Bitslotto's resources and alleged the firm helped launder $400 million in illicit funds. I kind of do, but I kind of don't want to go deeper into this story because I just don't know them. I know that basically every European police is involved in this, basically, even the Dutch politie. Yeah, it's basically a pretty big case, let's put it like that. It's kind of difficult, however, to see if they wanted this or if this was just something that was allowed to go through Bitslotto, if you guys get my drift. For example, here it says Hydra Markets, something from the dark web. Users exchanged more than $700 million in crypto on this website, either directly or through intermediaries. And that's really difficult terminology. So if, for example, it's through intermediaries, that might mean that I open up an exchange account, I'm doing some shady stuff in the background for some different businesses that you as the exchange owner could not really know about, and then how exactly are you supposed to get in trouble for that if you couldn't have known? But I guess that's what this case is going to be fought over, whether or not they knew. Monaco referred to the case as the most significant enforcement effort against an exchange since the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team was launched in October 2021. I guess there's not that many crypto scams over in Monaco. That certainly could be. A specific individual here, Mr. Leg, has also been apprehended over in Miami, I believe. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, I thought for a second it was Monaco the place, but her name is Monaco. Now that I'm reading through it again, there's a attorney that's Monaco, right? Because otherwise this would be kind of strange. Yeah, I found it here. General Lisa Monaco. Attorney General Lisa Monaco. There we go. I was already thinking, it's kind of strange that the U.S. deputy, I kind of set those two things apart. U.S. deputy and an attorney general, Miss Lisa from Monaco working together. But then, doesn't matter too much. We understand the idea. It's pretty strange. Again, the French caught me off guard. Yeah, I don't know why they did that. Lisa Monaco working on a France case. This is, come on, please, come on. Anyway, nearly half of the SEC crypto enforcement actions in 2022 were against ICOs. That's pretty good. Apparently, in 2022, the SEC brought a total of 30 crypto-related enforcement actions, of which 14 were related to initial coin offerings. And I'm not really against that. I think it's too little. From a certain perspective, I'm thinking, again, this shows the SEC is going after small fries. Unless we're talking about ICOs that have occurred in the past, like, for example, with Ethereum. But I'm assuming they're going for, like, the newer ones. And I'm thinking, yet again, like, go after the big guys, research FTX a little bit deeper. In hindsight, we can see a little mix-up. Here it says the allegations in SEC crypto enforcement actions over the last decade. Other allegations, is gray. Orange is market manipulation. Make sure you guys can see it perfectly. There we go. Light blue is unregistered offering of swaps to non-eligible contract participants outside a national securities exchange. Dark blue, promotion of securities without disclosing compensation. Yellow, failure to register as a broker or as an exchange. Another green, unregistered securities offering, and purple, fraud in the offer or sale of securities. Oh, by the way, do you guys remember that Coinbase employee's brother? Apparently last week he was sentenced to 10 months in prison for his role in the crypto insider trading scheme. It was only $1 million, so 10 months, I guess, is in that sense sufficient. On the opposite end, I'm thinking the guys were pretty dumb to only do that little amount of money in such a meticulously difficult effort. I'd say it would have been way less sketchy if they just had one lucky pool rather than like consecutively, consistently making the right calls and make a lot more money, but I digress. I'm not sure exactly what this article is meant for. I think it's just to show statistics, maybe to flex on us as to how the SEC is doing with all this, or the fact, here's where the kicker gets flown, whatever, that the SEC is going for a regulation by enforcement rather than regulation by rulemaking process. Yeah, and I don't know what else to say about it. It's just the SEC for some reason does not want to make new rules or try to make new rules or get them passed. They just want to sue the living crap out of different parties and I guess make more money that way. Not so sure what their goal would be. Maybe power, we don't know. Then EU delays the final vote on the MiCA crypto bill, again due to some translation issues. Apparently, the EU regulations require legal documents to be translated into all 24 official EU languages. MiCA has yet to be ready to be published. European Parliament officials are now expecting the vote on the bill to be in April of 2023. This is the second time in the last 2 months that the final vote on MiCA has been postponed. In November, it was delayed to February of 2023 due to the same translation issues, which is peculiar. I don't want to go too deep into that though because we've covered it before. What is more interesting is the SEC apparently violates privacy law while investigating dubious crypto firm Green. Apparently, the SEC just kind of leaked their data. Crypto miners involved in dubious crypto startup Green say they're easier targets for hackers now after their personal data was unintentionally leaked by the SEC. Apparently, the commission, which has increasingly enforced regulation on crypto firms, regulation by enforcement, again, on crypto firms as industry scandals continue to erupt, reportedly leaked 650 names and emails of Green users earlier this month. Yeah, and that is not good. That is not good at all. The SEC has been investigating Green for years and have reached out to users in order to learn their experience with the firm. Some members cooperated, but an employee failed to BCC all 650 users in an email, according to screenshots seen by Washington Examiner. And by doing so, the commission appears to have violated the Privacy Act of 1974. Its own website states clearly that personal data of those involved in SEC investigations are protected. Protecting the privacy of all parties is critically important, and the SEC is looking into this matter, a spokesperson for the SEC told Washington Examiner. Now, and even though Green has raised some red flags, this becomes like 3 times more difficult now that an SEC employee made such a big mistake. This is how people run free when you make mistakes like this, but I keep thinking as well, what if this person was paid off to do that? I'm not saying she was or he was, but I'm just thinking now. What if, for example, hypothetically speaking, you're in a lawsuit with somebody and their lawyers do something so absolutely mesmerizingly crazy that you get spoken free or you're out of this? Or the judge makes such a big mistake, whatever. I understand for the judge's record it's not that good, vice versa for the lawyer, but in theory, it could happen that one person on the opposite side makes a very big mistake, and so the person runs free. What if that happened here again, that the SEC made this mistake deliberately because of some payment or whatever? I'm just speculating, just joking around, I don't know, obviously, but it's interesting. Now, apparently Green claims to be the largest public decentralized power grid in the world, but when you look into the company, you can't really find that much information except for high yield with not that much risk, which obviously indeed is sketchy. Yeah, it's kind of strange though that the SEC has now messed these people up. Not sure what's going to happen to him, but I guess try making sure your own agency is competent, huh? Before going after other sort of criminals. Yeah, like we said before, we don't need to go too deep into this one. Crypto conglomerate DCG halts quarterly dividend payments. Again, they have to conserve as much cash as possible. There's not much more beautiful things we can say about this. They just have to get more cash. And one of the easiest ways is to cut your own supply of it. And then regarding the lawsuit, I'll cover this a little bit more later today. Yeah, the Ripple CEO today said he is optimistic the crypto firm will get ruling on XRP lawsuit soon and slams the embarrassing SEC. What we've seen now, however, if you really take a look at most of the stuff I've shown you today, and most of the stuff that you see the US SEC doing, or really that's been happening in the US against crypto companies, it really gets quite embarrassing quite quickly. A lot of the stuff that they do is just really, stupid is the best way to phrase it. Now, Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple, said he's optimistic that a ruling on its legal dispute with the SEC will be reached in 2023, potentially in the first half of this year, which is, by the way, what we all expect. The lawsuit relates to whether XRP should be treated as a security, has important implications about Ripple and the broader crypto market. People often forget that. Garlinghouse sternly rebukes the SEC's legal battle with his firm Wednesday, saying the conduct of the agency so far has been embarrassing. And yeah, I cannot fully more agree with this. A question popped up, is Ripple manipulating the XRP price? I don't want to go too far into this except for saying this. If you think that every single crypto out there is not to a certain degree manipulated, I think that's quite wishful thinking. And if you think again that any foundation or people with certain interest in certain projects, like for example with Bitcoin, like for example with Ethereum, like for example with Cardano, like for example with Algorand, you can kind of go on to this list. If they're not trying to at least manipulate their native currency price to a certain degree, I think again that's wishful thinking. They have an ecosystem to uphold, right? And even though you might not be able to prove it, potentially you could through the billion XRP every single month, but usually at least there's something going on, and that's to keep the ecosystem healthy. Usually it's not done for personal gain necessarily. Again, it's to balance things out. Like for example, they could be spending a lot of money to buy back XRP, which indeed is what Ripple is doing. In the same sense, almost nearly every single protocol out there has some sort of price manipulation in place, either through paying for market makers, I guess, theoretically speaking, they could just pay for certain prices to be held, it's possible. Or for example, through other networks, what they're doing is burning or doing some sort of buyback, and in theory, a protocol going in with the idea of, well, we're launching, we're doing staking basically, and it's paid by fees, for example. To a certain degree, that's also pretty easy to manipulate the price with, because if you start thinking about it, let's say that the amount rewarded in staking profit basically is in direct correlation with the amount of fees. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, that the biggest stakeholder then transacts a lot because they're being incentivized by some party to do so. So for example, buying a lot, then all those fees get turned back, or at least a good chunk of it gets turned back into profit. Since they're the largest stakeholder, they get a good chunk, if you guys get my drift, like a little bit of a circle. So in that theory, it would not cost that much to just get a lot of activity going. In the same sense, a lot of networks, they can make it look as if they have a lot more volume than they actually have because trading fees, for example, are very low, and vice versa. So manipulation is always going to be there. It's not something to dread. There's incentives for Bitcoin price to stay low. There's other incentives as to why they might want to keep it higher. Maybe that's why we're at 20,000 right now. Maybe there's some bigger plan from some guys over in China to keep it exactly at this price. There probably is. But that's a story for a different day. Guys, hopefully you all enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned something new. If you did, make sure you press the like button because it helps out. If you didn't like it, let me know why down below. So hopefully I can make these videos better. And subscribe if you want to see more of these daily crypto updates. And I'll see you guys again in another crypto video later today or tomorrow.